I was saying that Doc has made two valid points. One, he's saying that we should first identify the source of the energy sector debt and also consider privatizing revenue collection. Do you share that thought?
Well, there are a myriad of issues you deal with the energy sector, structural issues, and then, of course, technical issues. Um, Revenue is one of the things that I agree with Doc will need to fix. I have been privy to meetings where the technical operations people insist that ECG can actually do almost 2 billion revenue monthly. At present, we do just a little under a billion and sometimes 1 billion itself. Revenue could double if we put in place adequate structures to deal with um these revenue shortfalls, which makes them unable to pay the independent power producers and even carry out the routine maintenances required. So I agree with Doc that indeed something significantly ought to change as far as the revenue collection uh, structure that we have currently is concerned. A case in point, people are actually looking for meters in order that they can be able to account for power that they have used. ECG could end up telling you there's no meter, so go come. And even when there are meters, the amount of money that is being charged, uh, you wonder if the meter is probably you buying a car or something. It's costing in the thousands. A property of the ECG itself. These meters, I'm told, elsewhere should not even cost you $25 or $50. Yet over here, you probably end up paying about $500 to be able to access the meter. Clearly, if these practices are not overhauled, and if we do not find a way to, as it were, change the current setup where when ECG decides to go for revenue collection, announcements are made across radio stations, newspaper printouts that they are starting a revenue mobilization, say 1st July. If you do that, you are preempting the situation. You are telling anybody engaged in one illegal activity or the other to probably do your things well. It's like what they used to say, by we are coming, so be careful that we don't catch you. You don't need to give those notices. You don't need to broadcast these activities. And then again, you should not also wait for the periodic collections. It should be something that is carried out on a day to day. We should be able to go out there, track and trace um, households or factories, particularly, that clearly are utilizing power, you know, and then be able to ask questions of how much they are paying, receipts, if electronic receipts, any of them. Uh, the setup would need to be overhauled as far as the revenue bit is concerned, because clearly we could do way better. You recall the time PDS concession kick-started. Within the first month, what the records suggest is that ECG revenue had gone almost double. Not that PDS had done any institutional investments or had done any structural changes to anything, simply because they paid a little more attention to collecting revenue. They were able to rake in a little more. Again, the situation where you also have uh, companies would sit with meters and then will consume power for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Nobody comes, nobody asks anything. The bills run into several millions of Ghana cedis. At some point, decides that, well, maybe we should get a familiar or a friendly person and complain our meter is faulty. And then we cannibalize or destroy those meters. If the ECG is structured carefully or properly, we should be able to rake in a lot more millions than we currently do. Lastly, I also believe that you can apply or deploy technology to be able to assess the level of revenues needed. Per this, we're talking of the private sector participation that the current energy minister, the Honorable John Junapo, is proposing. If we allow the private sector in here, and then you allow them to bid for, say, the zones that you put ECG into, each and every one of these PSPs should be able to account for the amount of power that comes through their transformers. So Accra East, you divide that into about 4, if you may. You would have, of course, a manager overall, but individual companies assigned, a number of bulk distribution points or 1 or 2 bulk distribution points that has under it a number of, as it were, transformers. You should be able to determine that this area, the amount of power that was applied here, let's say 800 kilowatts, cost per kilowatt at this point should be probably $1, $2, $3, 0.5, whatever. You should be able to account for these things methodically so that it doesn't become, we don't know how much we have supplied, we don't know who is paying, we don't care who is not paying. And because we are unable to generate or rake in enough revenue, we are forced to continue increasing tariffs. The thinking is always been that we need more money. So if we need more money, we don't think of the base that contributes the little we have so that we can expand the base. We rather want to look at increasing the cost burden on the already overburdened, customer who is, dutifully paying their bills. We keep increasing their tariffs. I would also, lastly, say that we should definitely go for cost recovery for power. If we do a reckoner or do a mix, and the mix indicates that the cost per kilowatt, and our kilowatt should be 12 cedis, it won't make any economic sense or, justifiable sense for the state to still insist, let's sell it for 8 cedis. Sell it for the 12. It could be difficult, it will bring difficulty. But that way, you are rest assured that you are not going to be generating and creating debts that you will leave for future generations to pay, or for generations to pay next year, as we are being asked currently to top up some 1 Ghana cedi on our fuel, budgets for each liter, just because there's a problem with the power sector that we need money to fix. These problems are not created overnight. They are created from a bad system that fails to account for the power that has been used, which was not paid for, or for which we did not pay realistic tariffs for. Whichever way you look at it, somebody has got to pay for it, and we cannot continue to pile it up and wait for future generations to come and bear that cost. I don't find that sustainable at all. And so something has got to give. Thankfully, like I've always repeated, you have a current energy minister who's been a deputy power minister, a ranking member, mines and energy finance. Clearly, these are not issues that I would expect will be news to him. They are issues that he should be on top of. And I am confident that he should be able to fix these issues. You recall he took over, and one of the things that came to the fore was that ECG was actually operating some 82 accounts all over the place. And I asked myself, what exactly do they need 82 accounts to hold? Because one account can hold $1 trillion. I mean, so if you need to create 82 different accounts for an entity that is clearly bleeding already, that could also be a factor for the bleeding. And as I speak with you, I think he's taking steps to consolidate. Before the elections, there was also the talk of Haptel, the power app. ECG already had an app through which we could buy prepaid, units. And then we said we're developing another app for that same purpose. And then in some circles, you hear 172 million Ghana cedis paying for an app. And I wonder, those who created the WWW, the World Wide Web, I don't know how much they themselves would have spent, but for you to create an app, a payment or prepayment app, and then you are told the monies that we pay online also ends up with Haptel. ASEP had a report that said Haptel is keeping about 2-3% or 5% of that money, and then would send back to ECG the remaining. I do think that these are things that systematically we need to address, because once you don't address them, the gaping hole through which the debts are created, you'll be entrenching them instead of cutting the digging, because you find yourself in a deep dark hole. We rather want to continue digging, and when it suits us, we rather be asking that some amount of sand be thrown into the pit. Yes, it will bring us a little, but we are still digging. So you would dig and dig, and then the amount of sand that came, that should have probably brought you to the surface of the, it wouldn't be able to. So we need to halt the bleeding, halt the problems that have been identified so far, and then ensure that going forward, the things that lead to these debts, transmission losses, the last thing I could also touch on, weak infrastructure. Fortunately, I was in a meeting again that these matters came up, and one of the brilliant engineers said, look, let's not continue to build on a weak infrastructure. You have very weak pylons, weak transmission stations. You would need to go back and strengthen the existing infrastructure so that the transmission losses today running above 30%, we could at least bring it down to standards of around 10 or below, so that you could say, yes, we'll still lose some amount of power. You can't expect everything you generate to be everything that gets to the endpoint or end user, but 30, 32, 33, that's over the bar and something ought to give. And so, give or take, personally, I'm expecting the current setup to do way better than their predecessors did. Energy sector is not one of those places you would manage with grammar. It won't work because these are numbers driven. It is either you are contributing to the solution or you are simply adding to the problems that already exist. Whichever way you look at it, the minister has got a job on his hands. We are all looking up to him. If at some point it just becomes let's collect money from Ghanaians, like I have said elsewhere, I'm sure we'll go after him clearly, because it cannot continue to be business as usual. Let's create a debt. When we are done, we'll go and ask the trotro driver to come and pay for it, because they are citizens. It is their job to help us, cater for mismanagement. I mean, that's not sustainable. And I think that either way you look at it, certain things have got to stop. Procuring containers running into hundreds without clearing them. The only indication you give to all of us is that you really didn't have a need for these containers, because if you are waiting for 100 containers to fix a problem, they have arrived. You will not import another 200 without going to clear the 100 to use for whatever you need to use them for. Then we import up to 500. We don't clear. We don't even care where they sit. I mean, how to account for them. We import 1,000. We don't clear. We don't care. We import 2,000. I mean, it gets us sick to the stomach that people are not surcharged for some of these deliberate, corrupt practices that continues to bedevil the power sector. But like I've always maintained, there's got to be a start point and a stop point. And I expect the current administration and minister to put a stop to these practices so that you don't have a situation where they spend as though every day was Christmas, and then they come to you with a cup in hand begging that they need more money. I don't think it's sustainable any day. And so, give or take, the Ghanaian would not be averse to contributing to helping the sector be sustainable. But whatever heavy liftings that ought to be done should also not be shelved. You should go out there, do the heavy liftings. If people are failing at their jobs, their KPIs are not being met, I think the minister should personally be involved even in reviewing these KPIs of the sector players, because somebody is sitting somewhere just importing. The last time I heard anything, somebody had imported 40 years, of paper that ECG would need, stationary. And you ask, how does this person and who is he importing paper for? We just go and throw the money away. And then when push come to shove, we come back to the trotro driver to say we owe. So add something to fuel and let us pay. That era, that culture uh, will not allow to continue. And so today, we may still be insistent with the current managers of the power sector that there's a lot more to fix than just collecting money. And so, though you may be able to get your way getting the money, if you don't fix the gaping holes, uh, you will simply be throwing your money down a deep, dark hole that has no end whatsoever. People would need to be remembered for something, and I would want the current minister, particularly, to leave a legacy that says that he fixed the issues within the power sector, and we would not have to pay any more legacy debt